User goals. In this section, we're going to explore and think about the importance of the goals that our users have as they use software. We'll also consider some other types of non-user goal that are important as well. So by user goals, we're talking about here something that is different than tasks and activities. They're more what the user does. A goal, it captures sort of a user's expectation of an endpoint, where they want to get to, what they want to achieve. And the activities and various things that the user then does when they're interacting with software, they're simply ways of helping the user fulfill their goals. They're things that bring them towards and help them realize their overall goal. We can break these in hierarchically. You could say that goals can be decomposed into activities. You could break activities up into tasks. You could say that a task consists of a number of different types of action, and they may, again, in turn take a number of types of operations. It's really unimportant how you attach labels to these, but it is important to understand that when we think about goals, we're thinking about high-level activities that get to be broken up typically into a number of more detailed, specific sets of activity or tasks that the user does, and ultimately it gets down into those very low-level operations where the user might be clicking on something and moving something and tapping on keys or pressing the screen. So in our point of view, whilst interaction design involves all of these aspects, our starting point, the thing that overarches and covers all of this here, is the goals that the user holds. Goals, why they're important, they let us understand what motivates the user. It lets us understand and answer the question of why is the user using our software? And if we understand the why, what does the user want to get out of it? Why are they using this? It helps us then better answer how we will interact with the user. So that we have a particular task or activity. If we understand the user's goal, then we can better understand how that task or activity should be presented, how relevant it is. Can we get rid of it? Do we need to increase it? Do we build different aspects into it? So in a very, very real sense, an understanding the user's goals gives us a lens that we can look at to understand how we should interact with the user through the tasks and activities that they do. Ideally, we want to capture each goal as a sort of a single, simple sentence, things that can be easily understood by a wide range of people and easily shared. So whilst of course when we're thinking about interaction through our interfaces, we think in terms of activities and tasks and certain things being filled in and going from this screen to that screen. But it's really, really important to say that first of all, we need to ask and understand, well, why is the user doing this? What goals do they have? That's our fundamental starting point. In terms of then, well, how do we collect those goals? It would be an obvious and apparently reasonable approach to ask our users to say, well, why are you using our software? What do you want to get out of it? What are your goals? What are your reasons for this? We could do that, but we probably shouldn't. And the reasons for this is that what we hear back from our users, it may not be sufficiently detailed, it may not be accurate, and it may not be honest. So if we ask users, well, why are they doing it? They may be inclined to give us what they perceive to be the correct answer. The answer they think that is socially responsible or acceptable, or the answer they think that we want to hear. So it's really quite important when we're trying to identify and to think about the goals of the users that we infer those. We observe the user, we collect information, and from that we can infer what their goals are. And we may want to do a bit of cross-referencing them, but just in terms of the information we get directly back from our users. Crudely, when we're thinking about goals, we can group them into different types. And if we're thinking about user goals, we have experience, end, and life goals. So experience goals all are about how the user wants to feel as they're using the software. End goals is what the user wants to achieve and to do. And life goals are about the type of person who the user wants to be or to be perceived as being. So we'll look at each of these in turn. So experience goals, they capture how somebody wants to feel using the software. And that's important, but we do want to think about that emotional response when the user is using it. Now, that can include things like feeling that they're in control, that they are deciding what happens. It can also include feelings of feeling that they're reassured or that it's safe. There's nothing happening in the application that they're worried about. It absolutely can include feelings of being productive, that they're making progress towards whatever goals that they have. There are three common ones. But it goes well beyond this here to users wanting to experience feelings of fun or of relaxation or focus or of sort of trendiness in terms of the different approaches. So all of these things again tie into the different types of software that we can do and the emotional reactions that we want to generate through our users. End goals, they're reasonably straightforward. That's what the user wants to achieve in terms of performing the tasks. So they do all the tasks, well, what's going to be the end output from that? It may be retrieving, looking up, understanding some type of information. It may be ordering or booking something. So typically, we need to make sure that our end goals, we meet those. If we don't let the user achieve their end goals, the reason why they're using it from that sort of more productivity or end state point of view, they're not going to want to continue to use our software. Life goals then are a little bit more longer term, a little bit more high level. They're capturing those aspects of the type of person that the user wants to be. And that's it can include their self-image, how they want to see themselves or how they want to be seen by other people. And that's quite important because then this ties into aspects around brand, it ties aspects around marketing, about who uses this type of software, on what type of platform is it being used, what does it say to other people if you use this, if you do that, if you're this type of user. So they're important aspects. They can be quite hard to quantify, to understand, but they're quite important because they've been quite strong drivers then of aspects that encourage people to use certain types of software. Of course, there are goals that don't specifically relate just to our users, and we're going to have a bit of a delve into a number of them. We'll look at customer goals, we'll look at sort of business or organizational goals, and we'll also look at technical goals as well. And the aside in this slide is important because yes, these goals are important too, and we have to make sure we are fulfilling and meeting these particular goals, but to make sure we do that in a way that doesn't compromise or put at risk our user goals. They're still our most important element. Customer goals. So customers are the people who pay the money, who purchase the software or the product or whatever it's going to be. And that can be a wide range of people. For some types of software, is potentially the parents who are purchasing for their children. In a large corporate, it may be a purchasing team that is purchasing some piece of software for the users inside a particular department or group. And of course, the customers, they have goals as well. And those goals can differ, but quite often are related to the user goals. So customer goals may be and likely to include feelings of wanting to be safe in terms of what the software that's being used is going to work for the users. Our users are going to be happy. That's important for the customers. They want happy users. They want safe users. Generally, it also ties into broader aspects around security, may also tie into aspects around the ease with which it can be integrated or maintained within some wider setup inside the company. Value for money. As you might expect, that's important for customers because they're the ones paying for it. So their perceived set of features or the benefits from the software respective to the cost and again in comparison to other products, that overall value for money element, that's an important consideration for our customers. For business and organization goals, what we can go beyond that then, that may capture other aspects about how the business or the organization would embed or use that software. It may be for reasons of wanting to increase profit, to become more efficient in a certain area, to build market share, to better engage with customers and be able to retain them, and so on and so forth. So generally we want to understand from the business drivers, what are they there? What do they want the software to accomplish and to be able to provide and bring about? Technical goals can be a wide range of those. As developers will be widely familiar with them. That may be in terms of we need to support a certain range of platforms. It may be that there's certain languages or other technical constraints that we have to adhere to. It may be that we're integrating in with a wider family of software, or there are certain things we have to be compatible with. Now, quite often the technical goals, they're there for good reasons, but you can define those as reasons that relate to the ease with which the software can be developed, can be maintained, can be integrated, can be extended. All really important, of course, but it's important that we don't put too much emphasis on that. So our user goals come first, our customer and the wider business and organizational goals come after that, and then the technical goals, yes, we have to meet those, but not at the expense of the other aspects. So that's all we want to look at in this particular section. We've looked at the importance of goals, particularly in terms of understanding what goals our users have. But then alongside that, some of the other important characteristics and types of goal as well. In the next section, we're going to go on to think about what types of techniques can be used to model, to infer, to work out what the actual goals our users hold, what they are. So we'll look at that next.